Kids, it was the fall of 2022, and the podcast was rolling along smoothly. Your Uncle Brian's NFT business was booming.
There we go. 3 whole names. Gotta have my Pops coin.
Your Uncle Josh had nearly cracked the code on his lifelong obsession.
There we go. 3 whole servings. Let's go for 4.
Oh, please, Mr. Borman. I couldn't possibly eat any more.
We'll see about that, Goku.
Oh, no!
But you know what they say, just when things seem to be going their best, the universe steps in to intervene. And I, future AJ, whose voice this definitely is, on the day of my 33rd birthday, had some news for the gang.
It's the How I Met Your Mother episode!
Fuck!
Uh-oh.
The worst of all possible worlds. This is the worst world that could possibly exist. Welcome to the worst of all possible worlds, the first and only podcast that is legend. Wait for it.
Oh.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
I'm the worst of all possible Joshes, and I hate you so much.
Oh, this is just the beginning, Mr. Borman. Joining us
skin.
today is one of my favorite people on the planet. You might remember him from our Heavy Rain episode where he endured several hours of Norman Jaden and Jason's.
Was Norman Jaden for a time, if I recall correctly.
He is also the co-host of Omni BiLateral PANic, which you can listen to wherever you get your podcasts. Please welcome David Armstrong. Hi, David.
Hi,
Welcome, David.
I'm the worst of all possible Davids.
Yes.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yes.
But the best
Good.
of all possible Norman Jadens.
That's
Oh,
true.
It's
And-
funny how that works.
Well, today it is actually, we are recording this on the day of my 33rd birthday, and I thought what better way to celebrate than making my friends watch
AJ.
something they hate and that I have mixed feelings about.
Your identity's gonna get stolen.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, they know. Very public information. You can find out what I'm born.
Yeah, I mean, you combine it with 3 episodes ago when you gave out your social security number, and then we do a whip pan.
Yeah.
And we do a smash cut over to that, and then we cut back.
Yeah, all in front of a live studio audience, and that's the truth.
Definitely a live audience that's in the
definitely
studio.
alive.
That we're definitely sitting there, for sure.
Just need your mother's maiden name, and then we've got everything we need.
Well, I got some
Absolutely.
good news for you, David, because today we're going to meet your mother, because this is the story of how I met your mother.
Yeah.
First and only sitcom, to my knowledge, where the showrunners also wrote the theme song.
That's true. That is very true. Part of the band The Solids, old Carter Bays and Craig Thomas.
Yeah.
What about Star Trek, Brian? What about Gene Roddenberry doing
Okay,
the
that's
lyrics
a good point.
for Star Trek?
Gene Roddenberry did get a credit for the Star Trek theme because he wrote the worst lyrics of all time because he knew it would give him royalties.
But also, what a sitcom that Star Trek is. When I think multicam sitcom, I think
I don't know, man.
Star
Trouble with
Trek.
Tribbles?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's pretty sitcom-y
Yeah.
from time to time.
Right. So, David, the reason I brought you on to talk about How I Met Your Mother was actually supposed to be kind of an apology for Heavy Rain. I knew that the two of us had watched How I Met Your Mother during its original run, and that we both felt very similarly about its finale, but that we had, at least at the time, a pretty good memory of the rest of the show.
Yeah,
So
my recollection of it was that I liked the show, and the finale ruined it for me.
Right. And then we watched the whole show in preparation for this podcast.
Wait, hold on. When?
Over
When
the
did you
course of
do
the last
this?
couple months.
Oh,
because I
my.
knew I wanted to have David on since May.
This is AJ's Ozymandias moment. So I did this 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
yeah, this is my villain speech. I just dropped a giant squid on McLaren's.
Yeah. And now he's in a gold statue waiting to emerge.
Yeah. Any day now. But
Just 2 big, sexy legs.
that's what they say about me, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
It was a very harrowing experience to discover rewatching this. So much of it is not held up over time. And I don't know if that was your experience, David, with the whole thing, but it was certainly mine.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much I wasn't laughing anymore, and I knew that there's so much cadence and delivery to the whole show that is like, this is funny. Look how funny we are.
Yeah.
Laugh, motherfucker. Do it right
I was like,
now.
And that almost made me pressured me more to not laugh because I was like, this is not funny. And also, please don't tell me what to do with this.
I also actually did see some of this show. I was not a dedicated watcher of it, but I did watch. There were people on my floor my freshman year of college who were really into this show, and they were going through it all, and I'd sit in every once in a while and watch it, and my thought was, not great, but you know what is great? Barney.
Really?
Unassailable.
Wait, are you're joking, right?
Wow. I am not joking. I'm not making a joke right now.
Barney was a character who you really enjoyed.
Under the spell of Neil Patrick Harris after Harold and Kumar go to White Castle.
To be fair, I actually think that Harris really thrives at the physical comedy, and as the show went along, they really leaned into that aspect of Barney. So he started to be able to like wear multiple disguises and do like a whole bunch of different accents. There's actually a scene that is not in the episodes that we watched where Barney sits around the table with a person from every borough of New York that he is playing as like one of the player kings of those areas. It's in the rhyming episode, which I spared you all from, and I should get a medal for.
Thank you for doing that.
Lin-Manuel Miranda raps on a bus. His name is Gus.
But this was Lin-Manuel Miranda's whole little like, I'm going to be on TV for a while thing when he did House.
Yeah, well, a lot of House
Lin-Manuel Miranda was on House?
He was on House. He rapped with Hugh Laurie.
In that awful season where he's in the like insane asylum the whole time.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is a guy who just has a dream, I guess. I don't know.
Speaking of House, though, like, Brian, that kind of makes sense to me that Barney would be like the standout character for a lot of people because of that era of television, like just outstanding assholes like Dr. House. Like there's no good main characters on TV.
Also, just the thought of House rapping just sends chills up and down my
you
spine.
Need to watch it.
Rapping is very generous. It's a very generous definition of what
How
he's
I Met
doing.
Your Mother is one of those shows that has a lot of profound ripple effects in shows outside of itself. This is nowhere more profoundly felt than in the world of Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because Bryan Cranston has a big character arc on How I Met Your Mother. He convinces Bob Odenkirk to also have a character arc on How I Met Your Mother.
Really?
And because Bob Odenkirk was filming How I Met Your Mother, he couldn't be on set to film some stuff for Breaking Bad, so they had to invent the character of Mike Ehrmantraut.
No,
it was the end
way.
of season 2 when Jane dies. It was supposed to be Saul that shows up at the house, and then they rewrote that for Mike to be the one who takes all the contraband and slaps Jesse a few times. And
and you know, How I Met Your Mother was an incredibly popular show. It ran for 9 seasons, and it mostly retained its audience, which
it did quite
wild.
well. I mean, it wasn't at the top of the billing at any point.
No,
but it was pulling X-Files numbers at a time where that was becoming increasingly impressive to hold on to.
For sure.
Some people refer to this as like a cult classic sitcom, but that's just not the case. It's simply bigger than that.
Yeah.
And especially stuff relating to Barney entered popular culture in a very big way.
The episodes that we've chosen for today, I think, covering an entire 9-season sitcom in one single podcast episode is sort of a tall order. So there's going to be stuff that we leave out along the way, but I think the episodes that we've chosen present a pretty decent arc for what this show was, because a lot of How I Met Your Mother is actually filler. And David, you were telling me about a quote that you that you read on Twitter about like what makes a good television show, and I think it really describes How I Met Your Mother. So do you want to share that?
Yeah, that people nowadays are so spoiled because you can just binge watch good TV. Like a solid show that you binge watch is all consistently pretty good, but great TV is 400 episodes, 30 of which are the worst fucking things you've ever seen. And that describes like all the TV that I love. It's like X-Files, that's Doctor Who, and that's How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is like 10 great episodes, and then so many filler episodes that are.
In your opinion, did we watch any of the great episodes today?
We watched a few. I think Slap Bet and How Your Mother Met Me are widely considered to be. How Your Mother Met Me is the highest rated on IMDb, and I think it's probably the best episode of the whole series, I think.
Yeah.
I think Time Travelers is more interesting, but I do think that How Your Mother Met Me is probably the best the show ever did. So let's get into a little bit of the history of it. This show was created by Carter Bays and Craig Thomas. They were roommates at Wesleyan together, which is why the titular character of How I Met Your Mother graduated from Wesleyan.
School for perverts.
Yes, yes. I can't deny that. I can't deny that.
John Wesley, patron saint of perverts.
They wrote for Letterman together, and they started writing for a couple sitcoms here and there in order to get the basis under them.
Yeah,
and then
they
were
got
like
a couple of American Dad episodes.
And you can see a little bit of that sensibility, especially with a lot of the cutaways that we have throughout How I Met Your Mother. They ended up writing 66 of the show's 208 episodes, so they were fairly prolific. And for the first season especially, they brought together a lot of very interesting talent. Miller and Lord, for example, wrote on How I Met Your Mother and were EPs on it for a very long time. They invented the joke, legend, wait for it, dairy. That's a Miller and Lord contribution. So basically they had two pitches when it came time to actually pitch a sitcom to the networks. The first pitch was, what if an Enron executive had to go teach at an inner city school?
What?
Which was instantly shot down, and for good reason. And
but that could be so good in the right hands. Obviously, they should not be the ones shepherding
if you hand it off
like
to
that,
a really weird guy, it's gonna if you make it sort of a spoof of something like Welcome Back, Kotter.
Right.
But with just this, fucking
purely
reptile.
On paper, I love that idea.
The more you read about Bays and Thomas, it does seem like they seem to be like some of the luckiest people in show business, because it just so happened that two people left Letterman, so they were able to go in. It just so happened that their first pitch was turned down, and so they were like, let's just do a show about all the weird shit we got up to in our 20s in New York while writing for Letterman and drinking at an Irish bar around the corner called McGee's, which is still open and is what McLaren's in How I Met Your Mother is based on.
It's also what McGee from McGee and Me is based on.
That's right, Brian.
That is right, Brian.
Oh, God. I haven't heard a McGee reference since I was at Vacation Bible School.
Wait, David, you know McGee and Me?
Whoa, of course I do.
That's what's up.
Yes.
That's what's up.
Well, we got to have you on. We do McGee and Me, David.
Oh, my goodness.
That kid has the most complicated pencil sharpener in the world.
It's true.
He should just be using pens.
It should also be said they didn't do the Enron executive. Oh, I'm sorry. It gets weirder. The story of an Enron executive who gets sentenced by a judge to go teach at an inner city high school.
That's what judges do.
And judges love doing that.
Judges love doing that.
It's Mighty Ducks.
And here's an exact quote from Carter Bays about this. Which sounds like a great show, but from page one, neither of us wanted to do any research. We were just kind of like, I don't know, it's probably like this, and the whole thing just ran completely false. But the other idea was let's just write about our friends and stupid stuff we did in New York. And that's the one that's constantly brought up whenever anybody asks about How I Met Your Mother's origins. They always point to this article from E! Online, which we will link in the episode notes. Ted Mosby, who is played by Josh Radnor, is loosely based on Carter Bays. Lily and Marshall, who are played by Allison Hannigan and Jason Segel, respectively, are based on Craig Thomas and his wife. Allison Hannigan was the big get at this point. You think it'd be Neil Patrick Harris based on the longevity of the show, but he only gets a whiff. Allison Hannigan gets the and.
Yeah, because I suppose at that point he was mostly, people just thought of him as Doogie Howser at that point.
Right. Well, Doogie Howser, but also Harold and Kumar had come out. So he had sort of a cult following. There were people who had seen Harold and Kumar who were like, this guy's the funniest motherfucker on the planet. He jizzed in Kumar's car. What the fuck, dude?
The peak of comedy.
At this point, America was like, this incredibly straight man is going to be playing a womanizing asshole basically on this show, and it became kind of a brand thing for him. Barney just feels like an extension of Neil Patrick Harris from Harold and Kumar, which had come out the year before. But that's not how Barney was originally conceived. They originally had conceived Barney as a Jim Belushi type, an older cigar chomping old New Yorker kind of thing. The fact that Barney is a magician all came from Neil Patrick Harris. And
he's a magic enthusiast.
He sure is. So this show runs for 9 seasons.
Yeah, that's a very long time for a sitcom to run.
It's incredibly long. but the series finale is ranked as one of the worst of all time by Rolling Stone, Insider, USA Today, and Fox News. This is probably the only time I've ever fully agreed with Fox News about fucking anything.
Just imagining Greg Gutfield man, I was so on board for this, and then they fucked it up.
Just fucking The Five, right? Those fucking dipshits being like, well, it was such a great show right up until the ending. I was just so disappointed in it.
All right, guys, let's get these immigrants out of here.
I was going to say, and that's why all your kids are trans now. Trying to pull it over to the weirdest possible.
Well, no. I mean, look, you don't need to look too far for transphobia if you're looking at How I Met Your Mother.
No, I'm glad you included it in our watching list.
It's really hard to avoid, is the thing.
Yeah.
So this was not just a one-off thing. This shit's just like landmines all over the place.
Yeah. David, I think you can also speak to this having watched the whole thing, but I was shocked, frankly, how transphobic How I Met Your Mother is over the course of its run. The just really gross, I used to be a dude jokes.
Yeah, it's
and
just the
panic.
hackiest, cheapest fucking.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Jason Robert Brown ass joke.
Yeah, they're not even jokes, really. Calling them jokes is generous. It's these throwaway lines that are just supposed to be treated as look how quirky and cool we are. But also we're kind of afraid of trans people.
Which is very interesting because Robin Scherbatsky as a character has actually been embraced by certain members of the trans community as being an example of a pop culture icon that could be interpreted as trans. Her father raises her insisting that she's a boy. The whole arc of her and her dad is her dad finally coming to accept her as a woman.
So should we maybe lay out the characters for folks who haven't seen the show so that people really know who's who?
Absolutely. And there's no better way to do that than with the pilot of this show, which was written by Carter Bays and Craig Thomas and directed, like all the episodes we watched today, by Pamela Fryman, who directed the majority of How I Met Your Mother episodes. She had to not do one a year to abide by Directors Guild, I suppose, guidelines. But for the most part,
that's interesting.
She is the main directorial creative force behind the entirety of this series. So we open with Bob Saget
in the year 2030.
The distant year of 2030, which is so much closer now. Bob Saget sits down his kids to tell them the story of how he met their mother. They've heard the story before, but now they're going to hear the long version. And we cut back to little snapshots of Bob Saget, who used to be Josh Radnor.
Yeah, it's weird.
I think there might be something here to be said about Ted Mosby wants to be the perfect father, and based on when he was growing up, Full House, the Danny Tanner of it all, that the voice he hears in his head is that of a perfect father, but
Sure, but then that would be the voice in his head in the present of 2005. Which sort of becomes like a Princess Carolyn thing, where he's imagining... talking to his kids in the future, and he has no kids.
Right. Exactly. It's just two skeletons sitting on his couch
in an empty warehouse.
Ted really, obviously he serves as the anchor for this show. He's the main character.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's something to me from the very jump of it, because unlike the rest of you, I had never seen a minute of this show before.
Right.
It was just something that I kind of figured was not for me. And so I just chose to, avoid it. I was struck, and I'd be curious to hear how you guys feel, if you agree with me or not on this. I was struck at how much of just an anti-presence he is.
Yes.
I just find him to be a black hole of anti-charisma that just sucks all of the energy out of everything that's in the scene otherwise.
I like to think of his name as a question and answer about himself. So it's is Josh rad?
No, because
he's there to do all their dramatic scenes. He's there to be Mr. Sad Boy.
But he can't really carry that all that well either. He's not emotive, I don't think. No aspect of his performance do I find interesting or functional.
Yeah, it's they need him to be the Topher Grace of the show, but he doesn't have the raw charisma and star power of Topher Grace.
Or sexual magnetism of Topher Grace.
And so maybe the idea is that he's just a guy, and so the audience ought to insert themselves into him, put themselves in his shoes in a way, but he also isn't affable enough to be the everyman.
Yes.
I just watch him and I'm this dude just sort of sucks.
Yes. And Ted Mosby, let's be very clear here, does suck.
So many possible
Hey there, Worst of All Possible Worlds fans, AJ here. You all probably know that this is just a preview of the premium episode. You can go to patreon.com/worstofall to get the entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, an extra episode every single month. But what you absolutely don't know is that I went ahead and wrote an entire episode of How I Met Your Mother, and you can download it for free right now. It's called Have You Met Ted? And it's a completely normal episode of the show that in no way devolves into a Lynchian nightmare. Why would you even think? But the best part is you can download it right now, again, for free by clicking the link in the description below. Cannot stress enough how free the script is, but I will try. Okay, here we go.
It's free.
So grab a copy of your free script and then head on over to patreon.com/worstofall to listen to the rest of the episode. It's going to be legend. Wait for it.